Okay. In the first session, we looked into how curriculum has visualized and what is the task given to curricular framework to be constructed by NCERT and how language plays an important role in development of curriculum construction. Now, in the second part, we'll try to address how the curricular integration of different subject that has been prescribed at different levels along with their respective skills and capacities are to be integrated and how they are need to be looked at different stages and the levels is what this session is focusing on, and it will be followed by the assessment and what should be the special provision that we need to give for gifted and talented students also includes the part of this session. So yeah, the first one is there is a flexibility in the choice of the curriculum that one has to look at it. And they have their individual curricular, certain subjects, skills, and capacity that should be learned by different people are to be looked at it. Okay. So the importance of these things, why they are trying to look at it, every students to become good, successful, innovative, adaptable, and productive human beings in today's rapidly changing world. Okay. So they are not only saying that they must be cognitively empowered, but they also want them to be socially adaptable and trying to meet the social challenges that they may before them in their day-to-day life. In addition to the proficiency in language, what skills they must include? They may say they are saying that scientific temper, evidence-based thinking, creativity and innovativeness, senses of aesthetic and art, oral and written communication, health and nutrition, physical education, fitness, wellness, and sports. So that means here they are emphasizing that whatever subjects you are trying to give, those subjects must come with any one of these kinds of skills inbuilt with the subject knowledge. Now, skill will not come separately. They come along with the subject knowledge. So whatever skills you want that to be developed in the learner, these are the general skills. The policy visionaries are saying that they must be empowered. They must be built in. For example, for developing the scientific temperness among the skills. So this skill comes only along with the science subject only. Okay, then again, it follows with evidence-based thinking. It also promotes in social science and other sciences. Creativity and innovativeness can be seen across all subjects. Okay, aesthetic and art sense can be seen in languages. Okay, oral written communication can be seen in different subjects. So like this, the different subjects comes with the different skills. So these skills that they are trying to visualize must be inbuilt into the subjects wherever it is possible. And they also say that these are the other skills that they talk about, and the students should learn the skill of doing collaborative work and teamwork, problem solving, logical reasoning, occasional exposure and skills, digital literacy, coding and computational thinking, ethical and moral reasoning, knowledge and practice of humanities and constitutional values, gender sensitivity, fundamental duties, citizenship skills and values, knowledge of India, environmental awareness, including water and resource conservation, sanitation and hygiene, current affairs, and knowledge of critical issues facing local communities, states, and country and the world. So these are the set of skills the policy is talking about. And they say that these skills need to be integrated with the respective subjects, and whichever subject gives more scope for these kinds of skills to be developed, that needs to be imbibed into the curricular framework. So these are the set of skills that we are trying to see across different subjects, across different stages of schooling. So these are the core skills a student should learn. So it should acquire by having the curricular experiences in the schooling period. So these are the set of skills they are visualizing that every student should imbibe during the course of 3 years of entry and exiting at the 18 years of age. When they come out, they must have these kinds of skills with them. And along with these respective skills, the related knowledge, subject knowledge must also be there. And they must be able to apply that into the real life context and try to find the solution to the problems that they encounter in day-to-day activity. So it is in that way, skill should enable them to problem-solving activities. So it is in that way they are proposing that these skills need to be integrated into the respective subject disciplines. And they are saying that concentrated curricular and pedagogical initiatives must be taken up, including introduction of contemporary subjects such as artificial intelligence, design thinking, holistic health, organic living, environmental education, global citizenship education, etc. So that means here you need not only look from the traditional conventional way of your curriculum, not only looking at the science subject, art subjects, and the humanities subjects separately. We need to look beyond those subjects also. And there is a lot of changes that happen in science and technology. And because of the revolution in science and technology, it has an impact on the education also. And therefore, education should imbibe those reforms and equip our learners to meet the future challenges. So it is in that way they are saying introduce artificial intelligence subject, introduce design thinking, introduce holistic health program, and introduce global citizenship education. So that means here you don't restrict only to the Indian context only. You try to have the international perspective into your curricular aspects and try to make it more enriching and far-reaching activities. So it is in that way they are trying to project all these aspirations that a new curricular and pedagogical initiative must be introduced in the system. So it is in that way they say that when we talk about artificial intelligence, design thinking, or machine learning, these are the important professional course, engineering course, disciplinary activities where they demand more of science and mathematics integration into those subjects. So therefore, they say that to develop all the kinds of skills, they recognize that mathematics and mathematical thinking will be the essential core element, and it is this knowledge competency will give India's real leadership role in the world map. So it is in that way they are emphasizing that every students in the school period must learn mathematics and develop mathematical thinking abilities. And that too, policy is also talking about mathematical computational thinking abilities. So computation means it is the way in which we calculate using algorithms, using different procedures. And the computer is based on the algorithm, on the number system, binary system. And the artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of them depend on this computer knowledge, that is binary system of numbers. How these programs are designed, softwares are created, how they are implemented. All these activities are, if you are able to understand, if you want to develop a software as well as hardware in that particular area, means you should have a sound knowledge of mathematics and related science. So it is in that context they say that mathematics and mathematical thinking must be the core element of all these factors. And therefore, they emphasize the role of mathematics throughout the school years. So therefore, you can see that up to class 10, so there is no option for students to study maths or to eliminate maths. So it is a core subject. So the study language, science, mathematics, and social science are the core subjects. And therefore, only at the class 11th and 12th, they have a choice whether to go with the science stream or to go with the humanities. So till that class 10, it has been made a compulsory subject, core subject, because of its importance. And learning of mathematics facilitates the understanding of the science in a better way. So it is in that way they have given emphasize that. And they also say that because of that, even at the foundational stage, numeracy has been given importance. So it starts with number, though they learn abstract factor in the beginning, that abstract ideas only enable them to develop their cognitive abilities. So it is in that way they emphasize more on the mathematics and its importance in the entire schooling subject. And they also says that this mathematical teaching and learning must be done in a more enjoyable manner and in more engaging manner in the classroom. So it is not only chalk on top or doing problem on the board. It is much more than that, involving the learners, engaging them, and coming at the right solution. So it is in that way emphasis is done. And even they say that at the middle stage itself, you can introduce the coding as a part of the mathematical subject. So the coding and decoding is a different branch in a computer science, and it is used even in surveys. And how the students can be involved in all these activities can be looked at. And they say that it should be mathematics learning should also have a fun course. So that means here, through learning them without examination, without air testing and other things, they should enjoy learn it for their own enjoyment sake. So it is in that way they say that they can from grade 6 and 8, such activities can be given, like they can be asked to do the survey in their home localities, looking into the social status or educational awareness activities of the people within their own locality can be looked at, so that they get the hands-on experience of how important it is. This survey helps us in making the various policies, various programs, and how they can do it. And even they can also do the survey of different occasions that has been carried out in their own locality, looking into the carpentry, electric work, metal work, gardening, pottery making, etc. Within their own locality, within their own community, they can visualize and see how people are engaged in different occasions and how each one is contributing productively for a harmonious living. So it is in that way things can be done as a fun course. And it is practice-based curriculum can be implemented from 6 to 8. So that means every subject can have a real extended activity like this survey activity or data collecting activity and data analysis activity can be done, which helps them to realize how policies and programs are designed at the government level, both at the state and at national level. And even the policy says that student will participate in a 10-day bagless period, sometimes during the grade 6 to 8, where they intern with local vocational experts such as carpenters, gardeners, potters, artists, etc. So that means here, so in middle stage 6 to 8, there will be 10 days in an academic year, bagless days. So that means student will not bring any textbook, any notebook into the classroom. He comes with his open mind, and in that he needs to be engaged cognitively. So in those kinds of creative activity, teachers can send them or can bring the community experts or the vocational expert who are doing different vocation in different areas, ask them to come to school, talk about their vocation, share their experiences, demonstrate how they do it, and imbibe the interest of the students towards that particular vocations can also be done. So it is a backless day is a creative activity of the teachers, how they utilize and how they make that as a more productive and creative thinking factor among the learners. So that needs to be looked at. Then among that, they say there must be hands-on experience. So the students can go to these occasional experts in their own areas, in their own working place, work along with them for some days or for some hours on a particular day and get the real experience of the doing the work. Okay, so that is what we call it as intern or internship or hands-on experiences in different occasions can be given. So 10-day bagless day activities can be thought of in this way and can be designed by the schools in their own ways. And this can be extended up to class 12th and different mode. And even some of the vocational courses can also be done through online mode. If they are not available in their locality, online mode subject expert can be brought in and the experience and demonstration can be given and the students can able to make observations and make note of those kinds of activities and make a presentation in a seminar. So this will be encouraged throughout the year for various types of enrichment activities, not only in that occasion. It could be in arts, quizzes, sports, and any other crafts activities one can think of and can design their activities. And even children will be given periodic exposure to activities outside the school. So that means here having a field visit of educational importance or historical importance or cultural importance is being to be considered, and the students must be taken to those places to have the real experiences of those kinds of activities. And it can be done at the local level, village level, taluk level, district level, or at the state level. These activities needs can be organized. And while doing that, you should also be able to say that the knowledge of India or the traditional or innovative or traditional knowledge of India is being preserved, treasured, and it is nurtured to the new generation. It is transferring to. So it is in that way you should also try to see what is this knowledge of India, what we call it as native knowledges has to be brought in into the school system and try to say that how those knowledges are also used for different purposes in the social life. So that we need to look at it and will be incorporated in an accurate and scientific manner. So whenever those kinds of indigenous knowledge are brought into the curricular framework, it has to be introduced in a more authentic way, in a more systematic manner. In that way, you need to look at it. So in the Indian knowledge systems has to be looked at. So in that, including tribal knowledge, indigenous traditional ways of learning will be covered and included in mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, yoga, architecture, medicine, agriculture, engineering, linguistic, literature, sports, games, as well as in governance, polity, and conservations. So that means in any kind of knowledge that we have, in terms of knowledge of India, the deep-rootedness of the knowledge of India needs to be looked at, explored, and brought into the curricular fold. So that is what the policy is emphasizing. And it also talks about specific courses can be created in terms of tribal ethno-medicinal practices. Okay, where these tribal people have the rich experience of the tribal herbs and used for treating the human diseases. How that knowledge can be extracted and made more scientific and can be used in a more better way. And even they have rich experience of forest management, which tree grows in which way and where it is available. All those things can be extracted from their knowledge. Okay, that is what we call it as tribal knowledge. So these can be looked at, and those kinds of specific courses can be designed and introduced at the school. And again, an engaging course on Indian knowledge system will also be available to students in secondary school as an elective. So that means at the secondary school level, maybe at 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th stage, an engaging course means they have given an option of selecting any one of the Indian knowledge system, which will be made available to them. And they have to select that. And when they select, it is not through teaching them through textbook, it is engaging them literally and practically also by taking them to the respective source of knowledge and interacting with the respective people of the area. So it is in that way, it must be an engaging course. And it is an elective, not a compulsory subject. And again, competition may be held in schools for learning various topic and subject through fun and indigenous games. So now we have seen that even the local games are promoted as Desi games. So we need to preserve our own traditional games apart from the modern games. Okay, if we ask people which game they love and observe many time on that. So it is only now in Indian context, it is cricket. Later comes the football. Later comes the hockey, and very less importance to your table tennis or badminton. So every sports is important. We are not saying one is good, one is bad. So how student gets to know about all those kinds of important. Even now playing chess in the modern context is okay. He is now has got a prime importance. But in the Indian knowledge system, how dice was used and how kings have lost the kingdom because playing that, and how it has involves a varieties of strategies and technique has to be looked into. So like this, many things, games which are more innovative, creative, and have the Indianness in them needs to be developed. And even video documentaries on inspirational luminaries of India, ancient and modern Indian science and beyond can be documented if they are available, can be shown, and it can be used as a learning, enriching resources for students to observe them and get involved in those activities. And students should be encouraged to visit different states as part of cultural exchange program. Okay, this program is there in Navodaya Vidyalayas in the country, where students of northern states are migrated into any one of the selected southern state JNV, and like vice versa. And the class 9, this happens for 1 year, so that when the students from migrate from one state to another state, they learn their culture, their food habits, their traditions, and other things. So they with this benefits the cultural exchange, and seeing that how diversified cultures we have and how we have commonalities are there across different cultures can also be looked into. And such programs can be imbibed into the schooling system. At the young age, students must be thought of doing what is right. So that means here they must be empowered to make their own decisions. Okay, empowered to take their own decisions and act accordingly. So for taking the decision, they need to have a legal framework. So they cannot take their decisions in a very haphazard manner. So they have to think about it and take it the right decisions and making an ethical decision. So that means here decision making activity is a very highly cognitive activity. It has to have a legal framework. Based on that, only they are enabled to take a decision. And therefore, for making decision, how do they evolve that legal framework? And where do they get inspiration to develop such kind of framework are to be looked at and developed. In later years, this could be expanded along themes of why these things happens across the country, like cheating, violence, plagiarism, littering, tolerance, equality, empathy, etc. How these are developed and how these values are imbibed, how these characters are built into the system, and how these values are introduced into the systems are to be looked into, and they must have the multiple perspective of those, and in all kinds of work they must have the practical experiences. So as a consequence of this ethical reasoning, Indian traditional value, basic human and constitutional values will also be developed in all students. Okay, so when you are developing a legal framework, means you should consider Indian traditional values, which are those traditional values we have, and which are the basic human rights values that we need to acknowledge and accept that, and what is our constitutional values that is right. And these values are given here, such as Sheva, Ahimsa, Swachhata, Nishkama Karma, respect for elders, respect for environment, courtesy, forgiveness, empathy, compassion, patriotism, justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So all these values are derived, some are from traditional Indian values, some are human values, some are constitutional values. So that means here, whenever we want to imbibe any values into our subject knowledge, we have to look at these factors as our parameters, and from those you have to derive the curriculum aspirations, and we need to imbibe into our system. And to develop this, they say that you can also look into the Indian old traditional Panchatantra, Jataka tales, Hitopadesha, and other fun fables and inspiring tales from Indian traditions. So what that, though they are looking like a stories or it is a paraphrasing or instances that have been illustrated, how those inspires and what values they preach you are to be looked at it. So it is not, need not be a more curricular oriented, even it can be fun oriented activities also, enabling them to read these kinds of books and get the traditional Indian values that has been imbibed through those things. So again, excerpts from Indian Constitution will also be considered as essential reading for all students. So that means even we know that at the undergraduate level, Constitution of India has been made a one of the compulsory course in the undergraduate course. Every student has to read that and has to essentially pass through that particular course. It is only to imbibe essential to that. Everybody knows what our constitutions are, what are our rights, what are our duties, and what are our responsibilities. So when every citizen knows these three aspects, only then democracy prevails and we can protect our democratic patterns of the governments. So apart from that, basic training in health will also be given because we need to have health education along with your sports and physical education. And we don't talk about only the physical health, we also talk about the mental health. So that means health we have to look at in a very broader, comprehensive manner, saying that health means it is physical health, mental health, social health, emotional health, and the spiritual health. So all the components has to be looked at. So not one of them. Okay, so everything has to be looked at in all dimensions. Only then we say you are in a good health or in a bad health. So it is in that way you need to look at it. To have that health, we need to have a good nutrition and a good physical health, and we need to have hygiene and the disaster responses, how these are to be included into our curriculum. So in our science or social sciences, now we have also included disaster management as one of the chapters. So to enable them to understand what do you mean by disaster, how things happen, is it by man-made or it is nature? And if such thing happens, how do we address that and how do we overcome? So these are the things that we need to look at. And we should also restrict our students to exposing themselves into drug abuse or tobacco abuse. So that needs to be looked at in a very serious manner. So all curricular pedagogical from foundational stage onwards till the secondary stage, they say it must be strongly rooted in Indian and local context. So that means whatever examples, whatever illustrations that you give, if you give from the local context or from the Indian background context, then it will have more meaningful values in that. So by doing that, they say that education is maximally relatable, relevant, interesting, and effective for our students. By doing all those things, we are making that whatever they are trying to learn in classroom, they are able to relate with the outside reality in the society, in the community, in the state and the nation, and then see that how education and acquiring knowledge has transformed them into a acquiring the power. So it is this kinds of transformation has to be done for students. Then stories, arts, games, sports, problem, etc. can be chosen from the Indian context only and the geographical context, local geographical context only can be looked at. Ideas, abstractions, and creativity will indeed better flourish when learning is thus rooted. So that means it says that when you are deep rooted in your own Indianness, then your thinking, your new ideas will emerge in that particular context. So that is what they are saying that deep rootedness in Indianness is what all your curriculum must focus and aim at. So curriculum framework, as it has been said in the earlier session also, NCERT has been given this task. And the task is also said that NC National Curriculum Framework for School Education should be brought out in 2021. And even national education is said that, and it has said that all ministries, education, whatever things are has to be synergized and it needs to be brought into the face. That means this policy had given the timeline also, but the timeline has been not adhered to. But still, the things are happening as per the timelines. And it also says that once the curriculum framework for school education is brought out, it need not be left as it is for more than 10 years or 15 years. It has to be revisited and updated as frequently as possible. That is what they are saying. So it says that at least every 5 years you have to revisit. If anything is required, you update it, or at least at the end of every 10 years, it has to be revised and taking into frontline curriculum. So the changes that has happened over a period of time in other areas also to be accommodated in your revision activities. So these are the two curriculum framework that has been brought, though it was to be brought out in 2021. The National Curriculum Framework for Foundational Stage has been published in 2022. Okay, similarly, National Curriculum Framework for School Education has been published in 2023 by NCERT. These documents are available on the NCERT website or even in the Ministry of Education website. You can download them, read them, understand them, how this curriculum has extensively talked about what curricular aspirations we need to give and how that needs to be transacted and how it needs to be assessed at every grade level, every stage level has been extensively given in these documents. And to carry out these factors, curriculum into reality, it is through the textbooks we try to bring that. And it is whenever we are trying to bring the national level textbooks, so they say that wherever possible, bring the local context and flavor into the textbook activities. So the examples that you give, the illustration that you give can be taken from the Indian context or from the local context where the textbook is developed. So it is in that context they are giving much importance to local and flavor. So it says that whenever you are preparing textbook, reduction in content and increase flexibility in school curriculum. So that means it should not be a rigid form of textbook. It should have the freedom for teachers to enhance that or bring in rich experience into that, then rather than doing it in a mechanical way. And it emphasizes on constructive rather than rote learning. So that means it emphasizes that your textbook development must be based on constructivist philosophy, adopting constructivist approach. The constructivist philosophy believes that every learner has the ability to construct their own knowledge, provided they are exposed to varieties of enriched learning activities. Through those activities, they get the learning experiences. Through those learning experiences, they construct the knowledge. So that means it is through the learning experiences, knowledge is being constructed. And when it is constructed, can be applied and used in a different dimensions. So that is enabling of the construction and its application in the given context is what constructivist philosophy believes in. So it is in that it says that you need to adopt that. And it says that you should have parallel changes in the textbook also. According to the philosophy, you need to bring in the changes in the textbook also. All textbooks shall aim to attain the essential core materials. So that means whatever the curricular aspirations are there, so you need to bring in those aspirations as your core elements. Okay, together with discussions, analysis, examples and application, whichever is deemed fit at the national level can be modified at the state level and used as per your local context and needs. The wherever possible, schools and teachers will also have the choices in the textbooks. So that means here, it is not only the prescribed textbooks that you are only restricted to refer. If the teachers have the freedom to refer any other textbook of any other states of any other boards and make their enriched understanding of the material. So that is not only one set, multiple sets of books can be allowed for teacher references and students' usage in their class level. The aim will be to provide quality textbook at the lowest possible cost. Okay. Now at present, at the state government level, all textbooks are given free to every students in the government sector, but not free to the private sector students. Okay, so that means here this cost we may consider only in the private sector, whereas in the government sector, providing free textbook is one of the mandated activity of the every government at the state level. And it is funded through national through Samagra Shiksha scheme. Okay, Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Through that, the fundings has been done for production of the books. And this quality textbook may be accompanied by varieties of other learning materials also. Additional materials means it can be teacher's handbook, it can be laboratory manual, it can be exemplar problem books, can be done, can be developed with the help of funding by public philanthropic partnership and crowdsourcing that incentivize experts to write such high quality textbook at low cost price. Okay, so that is what the intention of bringing about quality textbooks. And again, they have given freedom to the state, that states with their respective boards, they can prepare their own textbook, but looking into NCERT curricular framework. So you cannot deviate from the overall framework, but you can incorporate local flavor, local context, local examples into your textbook, and you can provide them those curricular material to your students. And they also say that curriculum would be taken as the nationally acceptable criterion. So that means here you cannot make total changes in the curriculum framework. So you can make changes to the extent of 10 to 15% in the curriculum framework, which has been suggested at the national level when you try to implement it at the state level. And even they say that you can also ensure that textbooks are available in all regional languages. Okay, at present, they are ensuring that they have been made available in the 8 scheduled languages that has been enshrined in the Constitution. So that they are trying to make that books available. If they are required, they need to be prepared at state level or at the national level, including in the regional language also must be there. And it will be ensured that timely availability of textbooks in schools. Okay, in many states, we say that though the school has opened, the textbooks have not reached to the students. Now, for example, in class 3, NCERT has revised the curriculum and they are revised the textbook of class 3, and it has been made available online through PDF format. But class 6, even they are trying to bring changes and it is in the pipeline. So if these are not made accessible and it is been implemented, means it becomes hardship both to the student and the teachers and the parents for making those implementation at the school level. So it is that you should say that timely availability of the textbook and accessible to downloadable and printable versions are all to be made. So that means, as you know, that NCERT has allowed to download any kind of book by any individual through the website. Okay, and even it has allowed the state government to print them by taking acknowledgement from the NCERT and distributing them to their own students. So that means it is accessibility to the schools in print form or in digital form is made available. It is this kind of availability must be made by the concerned authorities. That is what it says. Then it must be joint effort by the state and the SCRTs at the state level and NCERT at the national level, and the teacher educators must able to work towards to say that all our curriculum will be significantly reduce the weight of school bags and the textbooks. Okay, it is because of the Yashpal committee's report, so learning without burden. So it is because of that document that we should ensure that the school bag, the school students carry with them, including having textbooks, notebooks, everything within that has to be brought down. Because carrying a huge luggage on their shoulders at the young age has physical deformities. So therefore, to avoid that, they are giving more concern to reducing the weight of the school bags are also considered.
ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ ಸರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ
ಮಾಡಿ ಡಿಸೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ.
transforming assessment of student development. So when such things are brought about in curricular subject, integration is happening with subject knowledge and skills. Now, what should be the transformation that we want to take in terms of assessment activity also? Because assessment we should not consider is an end activity. It is also a process. So if you consider learning is a process, then assessment should also be treated as a process. So that means as the learning begins, assessment also commences. So it is not an one-time activity. It is a continuous ongoing activity. So that means we have to do it continuously. So therefore, we have to shift from summative to formative assessment. So even constructivism believes in formative assessment. It doesn't give emphasis on summative assessment. And even this formative assessment and constructivism will enable us to move towards competency-based education and learning. And therefore, this way of shifting from way of thinking and doing things will enable us to go for higher order thinking abilities among the learners. And based on that, we can think about their higher order skills developing in terms of their analytical abilities, their critical thinking abilities, and having more conceptual clarities can be seen. So that means here the policy says that we should embrace more of formative assessment and less importance should be given to summative assessment. So that is what the essence of assessment shift it is talking about. And it is assessment at the primary, it will be for learning. Okay, so that means it is formative assessment. It will help the teacher and student and the entire schooling system. Not only one, it is helping the student, helping the teacher, and the schooling system means it is the administrator, it is a community, society, and it helps us in continuously revising teaching learning processes. The teacher can look at it quite oftenly and optimize learning and development of all students can be taken up when we say that assessment is for learning. If you are having that approach, then all these things can be realized. Okay, so that means at all levels. So that is starting from foundational level till the secondary level, even in the higher education level, the formative assessment and enhancing higher order skills and assessing those skills becomes primary importance of assessment activity. And when we do those kinds of assessment, how do you report that? So therefore, we try to give them in terms of the progress report card. And this has to be just communicated to the schools, parents, community, everything is done. So that is the instrument through which we communicate that. And that needs to have a complete information. And therefore, it is proposed that National Assessment Center, NCRT and SCRT will come out with school-based assessment progress card. Okay, school-based assessment. So it is not a board-based or at the national level or at the state level. So it is the school-based assessment progress report that needs to be developed. And this progress card will be holistic. So that means it should take care of curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular activities. It should be 360-degree oriented. So that means it should give the complete picture of the individual student. It is not only talking about his schooling, it also should talk about its personality development, his social development, his emotional development, all aspects should be covered and it should have multi-dimensional. It should not have only curricular, co-curricular, it should have all other dimensions, which enables us to see the well-roundedness and holistic development of the learner must be given. So it is in that way it talks about uniqueness of each learner in cognitive, affective, psychomotor domains, along with other domains has to be reflected. And this report should also include not assessment only by the teacher, it should include assessment by the student, self-assessment, peer assessment must be included in the progress report. And for doing all those things, you must see the progress of the child in project-based, inquiry-based learning, quizzes, role plays, group work, portfolios, etc., along with teacher assessment. So that means to say that your own academic testing, your unit test, annual term, midterm test is not only the way, but it can be done in multiple ways, in multiple forms. and all of them has to be reported and reflected in your progress card. Only then it becomes holistic report card. So that is what they talk about holistic report card. It is an important link between home and school. So that means here the school and the home. Home means it is the parent. Parent and school must collaboratively work towards for the development of their own learner at home. So it is in that way, parent-teacher meeting, associations and interaction, constant interaction with parent is essential in developing this holistic report card. So it is so this report card will help us how to support each student in and out of the classroom. So that means here the report card should talk about the strength of the students, the weaknesses of the student, and the opportunities for him to improve upon in the weaknesses and how that could be done about. So these must be looked into. So when you are trying to develop those kinds of progress report, so they also talk about using your technology, that is artificial intelligence based software can be inducted into your school system, and through that you can develop your holistic report card, and in that you can record growth of the child through their school years. So how was the child in a pre-primary education at 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, at the end of 18 years, how he is now, and what are the things he has acquired along the schooling period can be looked at. The stage wise also can be looked at. And these must enable us to get the valuable information regarding the student in all aspects. So it is that will enable us to say in which area or which stream this student is interested, can excel, and in which area he may not able to perform better. All this analysis can be done and the decision can be made and guidance can be provided. Okay. Now they talk about secondary school examination, which is being conducted at the board exams and the entrance exam that is being done in the state. And the policy is much against the coaching culture of today. So that means there are varieties of coaching centers which have come up in a big way. Okay, even including the private tuitions being done by the teachers in their local localities. So which harms the education system at the school level. And therefore, this coaching culture has to be replaced, and true learning and the valuable time for true learning must be spent in the school itself. So it is in that shift we need to bring in the terms of your board exams and in the entrance exams. So that is what they are trying to look at. So it emphasizes that the board exams that we are trying to conduct and the entrance exam that we are conducting, it is very narrow band of materials that we consider and in a single stream rather than allowing the flexible and choice in the system. Okay. If any board means you have to opt for the board examination, that papers that are there. So we don't have any other choice of doing that. So that kind of rigidity is there in our examination boards that must have flexibility and the choice of doing the exams. And now they say the board exams at grade 12 will be continued at grade 10 and 12. So though the secondary education has clubbed 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th, 12th together, but there'll be board exams at class 10th and class 12, they'll be there. And the existing system of board and entrance examinations shall be reformed to eliminate the need for undertaking coaching classes. Okay, so every parent should not believe that coaching is a must for the child to get and crack the entrance exam and get a seat in a professional course in a desired college. So that should not be the intention. It should be the true learning that we need to look at to break this barrier. So they are suggesting reforms in the boards also. According to that, so we have seen that many reforms have been initiated by the CBSE at the national level. And some states in Karnataka also, they have initiated varieties of actions regarding these. Ega, okay? Yes.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
yes,
Yes,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hear you now.
So that is board examination must look into what are those core competencies that are being enlisted in the particular subject discipline, and they must try to focus on testing those competencies only rather than testing all chapters in the given subject. And two board examination options will be given. One, the general main examination, After that, if the child feels he has got the ability to improve his result, even then he may be. And the improved result can be accepted and taken for his understanding. So introducing greater flexibility, student choice, and best attempts assessment that primarily test core capacities must be immensely the key reforms in the whole board examination. So that is competencies only should be looked at. And boards may over time also develop further viable models of board examination to reduce pressure and coaching culture. So that means examination should not be stressful and pressureful. So how does they reduce that and make them interesting? Now, some possibilities, the possible things the policy also suggests is it can be annual examination, it can be semester-based examination, or it can be modular approach examinations can be developed and can be tested and all other things. And by doing that, they can reduce all these pressures and the stress that we are trying to see that. And even they can also reduce the emphasis on going to the coaching center and enabling them to move away from the coaching centers. And even they have suggested the reforms in the board examination question paper pattern. So one part is that it will have two components. One part will be having objective type with multiple choice question. Another part is of the descriptive type. So where in both the cases, emphasis is given on testing of higher order skills and higher order knowledge abilities should be your core testing areas. So that is what the things are to be looked at. And now to bring in all those things at the national level and the state level. So they are policy proposing new national assessment center, which has been there. Now it has already been functioning, which is called as National Testing Agency, NTA. Okay, and then transformation that we bring about in assessment reform should also be reflected in our curriculum framework for school education that has been there. You read the document, you will also see what suggestions have been made. Now, to track progress throughout the school years and not just at the grade and 12th level only. So that means from class pre-primary to the class 12, the progress has to be documented and reported in the progress report. And therefore, the examination reform, school examination reform, and examination can be conducted even at the grade 3, 5, and 8. Why can anyone say why it has been emphasized at grade 3, 5, and 8? Is any response from anyone?
I think it is based on the level of understanding.
Okay, one is your answer
Sir,
is.
sir,
Hmm.
sir, the highest level of each levels, like 3, 5, and 8 are the highest levels of primary, middle and pre-primary level.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we call it as terminal stage of the stages. So grade 3 is the entry stage of your preparatory stage. Okay, class 5 is again entry stage for the middle, terminal stage, and class 8 is a terminal stage for the middle. So these stages at the terminal level needs to be tested for their quality acquisition of the competencies. If they are not done, then we can have a bridge courses and bridge the gap that you can find in terms of their acquisition of competencies and enable them to proceed with their learning activities. So it is in that way they are trying to say that examination reforms and the school examination at grade 3, 5 are also being encouraged. And these are also proposed in RT Act 2016, revised act also, to bring in the quality education component and check the quality at the different grade levels and to bring in the adequate changes, modification at the schooling system also. This has been emphasized and it says that this can be done. So recently, last year, Karnataka state did that. Many parents went to the court and Supreme Court, and court has stayed that, and whatever is the school results that has been accepted, and they are sent to the different grades. So it is in that way reforms have been initiated by different states at the different levels. And it should only be the achievement of basic learning outcomes. It is not the achievement of the subject knowledge. So we are talking about basic learning outcomes. So the outcomes are the combination of subject competencies and related skills and the values. So these are to be looked at in terms of learning outcomes. The NCERT has brought out the learning outcomes at the elementary level, secondary level, at the senior secondary level. So you can go through those documents and see how those outcomes have been fixed, and they are only suggestive. It can be improvised by the states by their own ways, and try to look at them and bring them into the actions. And it is only to see that higher order skills and application of knowledge in real life situations are emphasized or looked into rather than testing their memory aspects. Rote learning is not encouraged and rote memorization is not required. So it is the application of knowledge in a given context is what is emphasized, and therefore higher order thinking questions are to be imposed, and the students must be enable them to address those kinds of questions. In grade 3 examinations in particular, they say it must test only basic literacy, numeracy, and other functional skills, not beyond that. So that is what they are saying. So in schools, examinations will be used only for developmental purposes of the school education system. It is not for certifying or not for grading or doing any other thing. It is only to developmental purposes of school education system and overall students' outcomes, and for continuous monitoring and improvement of schooling systems only. It has to be looked for in kinds of making improvements in the schooling system. It is for that purpose we are doing class 3, 5, and 8. And at the national level, it is proposed to set up National Assessment Center called FARAK, FARAKH. It is performance assessment, review, and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. Okay. So this body has been set up in NCERT as per this policy, and now they are able to bring out, as it is working as a standard setting body in the examination, and they have brought out some exemplar question papers in the lower classes level, and gradually they'll be trying to do for other level also. Okay. And even all recognized school boards of India should try to follow the FARAK guidelines and try to bring that as a achievement of standards in the educational sector must be looked at. And these analysis FARAK data and the results can be used for state achievement surveys, where various states will undertake in the respective boards, or it will be done at the National Achievement Survey at the national level for monitoring the achievement of learning outcomes in the country and encouraging to meeting the skill requirement of the 21st century. So it is in that context the creation of FARAK body has been initiated and it has come into existence. And this center FARAK will also advise school boards regarding new assessment patterns, latest researches, and promotes collaboration between school boards. So that means across different states, different boards has to collaborate, and together they must work towards bringing reforms in the education sector. And the FARAK institution will also become an instrument for sharing the best practices among school boards and for ensuring equivalence of academic standards among learners across all school boards. So that means here they want to bring in some kind of quality assurance and some kind of educational standard setup across state levels and across the nation also. So it is in that way, it is a standard setting body for bringing in examination reforms. And the principle of university entrance exam will be similar. So different universities are conducting different entrance exams at the different times. Now all this will be removed, only one entrance examination in the country will be held, and that entrance exam need to be accepted by all universities, and as per their requirement, as per the results available, they can take the students for the various admission purposes. So it is in that way, National Testing Agency is already working now, which is conducting the NEET examination, JEE examination, and the ITEP entrance examination. As all kinds of national level examination is conducted by these national testing agencies, and it works to offer high quality common aptitude test in the different areas, in the schooling areas and the teacher sector areas and different subject areas also it is going to work. And this examination will be conducted twice every year. So in a year, 2 times this examination will be conducted and should test conceptual understanding and ability to apply knowledge, and shall aim to eliminate the need for taking coaching for these examinations. So it is only testing the understanding and application factors only, not beyond that. And students will be able to choose the subject for taking the test, and each university will be able to see each individual subject performance and take the and give admission to whichever streams the student is likely to fit in. So that means it avoids multiple entrance examination across the country. This will be National Testing Agency will be observed as a premier expert autonomous testing organization conducting examination for undergraduate and graduate admissions and fellowship in higher education institution. So it is already functioning. The high quality, range and flexibility of NTA's testing service will enable to overcome all the illness that we are anticipating and seeing in the present day. So it is, they are assuming that NTA will bring reforms in the examination system as well as in the education system. Again, they give option for the universities and the colleges to use the NTA assessment for their admissions, and what criteria they have evolved. Based on that, they can take the NTA results and they can use it. Now, we look into what this policy is talking about the gifted students and the special talented students. So you may be wondering why this has been mentioned extensively under curriculum and pedagogy. Can anyone say what could be the reasons?
So it is an equal rights.
What, sir?
It is a right of every citizen of a country to get an education.
Yes, sir. Fine. But why? Why this policy is mentioning this exclusively?
To support
To
the
bring
special
inclusive
talent.
education.
To bring in inclusive education. Yes. Yes. Another one, sir. Another sir was speaking.
Sir, to support, I mean, like extra talented students, I mean, like students with special talents.
Yes. Okay. The madam said we are embracing inclusive education. So our general understanding of inclusive education is education in which we are bringing disabled students with the normal student, makes it inclusive education. But the children with special needs or the children with disabilities, as well as children's with giftedness and special talentedness also come under children with special needs. Though the gifted children and talented students are less than 1% of the total population. Okay, they are less than 1% of the total population, but their contribution to the community and the nation is enormous. It is very huge. So they are creative persons, they are productive persons, and they are going to be more useful to the country. So it is in that context, the policy specifically specifies that what should be the way in which we are going to support them, enrich them, and nurture them. So it is in that way, policy talks about these kinds of things. So these innate talent that are there in the student must be discovered, nurtured, fostered, and developed. And this may express in many forms. not in one way, in many ways, dispositions and capacities. The teacher has to be vigilant and they must make her observations and then record them and try to provide those kinds of things. And for them, such students, you need to give curriculum which goes beyond the general school curriculum. So your general curriculum for the general students and the inclusive students will not work. We need to give more enriched curricular activities. So that activities needs to be looked at. So therefore, teacher education programs that they are dealing with can opt the giftedness and the talentedness as the specialized papers in their teacher trainees, and they must be able to include that. And even the policy talks about both NCRT and NCTE. NCTE is the regulatory body for teacher education. So both of them together, they must develop guidelines for education of the gifted children. So what facilities and opportunities that we need to create must make them to do that. And even B.Ed program can have specialization paper in these issues. And teachers will aim to encourage students with singular interest or talents in the classroom by giving them supplementary enriched material and guidance and encouragement. So that means it is the duty of the teachers to identify them in the early. If they have identified, you have to nurture and nourish them, and that nurturing can happen by providing enriching learning or study materials. So for such children, topic-centered, project-based clubs and circles will be necessary, and those, if they are created in schools, can be used, or if they are existing outside the school, you must direct the child to approach them and get their supports in all other ways. So it includes, like they are given example, like you can create science circles, math circles. So here they are using it as circles, but we have the orientation of clubs. So you can have science clubs, math clubs, music, dance performance clubs, chess circles, poetry circles, language circles, drama circles. So all these kinds of clubs that are there in all areas can be looked at in whichever area is interested and his talent is there. In that way, we can channelize their talents, and that is how you can nurture them. So you can also provide them high quality national residential summer programs. Okay, so they are not saying residential exclusive schools for them. They are saying during the summer vacation, a residential summer program of shorter duration can be held, and in which they can be inducted and provided all kinds of services. And it should be merit-based but equitable admission process to attract every best students and teachers from across the countries, including socio-economically disadvantaged groups. So it is socially, economically disadvantaged groups comprises of ST, SC, ST, OBC, minorities will also come into this ambit. And even those talents, giftedness, if they are there in all these communities, we should recognize them and provide opportunities. And for them, we need to provide Olympiad and competitions because they require more of competitiveness, and it must be in a healthy competitions so that they can exhibit their creativity and talent in all those progresses. And therefore, schools must think of organizing Olympiad and competitions in their respective areas and subjects, and say that their students get opportunity of using them. And efforts will be made to make these available in rural areas and regional languages to ensure widespread participation. Okay, so that means it should not be restricted to only English or Hindi. It should be promoted in all languages. So as you know that Navodaya Vidyalayas are created to support the rural talented students only. So to capture the rural talented, nurture them, nourish them by providing the schooling facilities as a residential setup is what is the main aim of Navodaya Vidyalayas. So it is in that way they are trying to promote the talentedness of the rural areas. And again, private and public universities, premier institutions like IIT, NITs will be encouraged to use all these kinds of summer camps they can organize, and they can induct these students for a short-term courses and enrich them to expose them to the varieties of advancement in their institutions and develop their interest in those areas. So that can be looked into by the respective areas. So once the internet facilities are made available, ensured in all schools and areas, so then they are talking about internet connected smartphones or tablets are available in all homes or schools. Then we can think of online applications with quizzes, competition, assessment, enrichment materials, online communities for shared interest will be developed and will work to enhance all the aforementioned initiatives as group activities for students with appropriate supervision of parents and teachers. So that means even technology is also can be inducted for enriching their abilities and talents. So it is in that way, the policy is also catering to how our curriculum should also address these categories of students, though they are very, very less in number in the school sectors, but still that needs to be recognized and acknowledged. So it is in that way we are trying to see how these things has to move. And it also says that as physical infrastructure improves in every area, including internet connectivity, then every school will start developing the smart classrooms in a phased manner. So when you are going to do that, then every teacher has to become technology savvy. You should also develop the digital pedagogical approaches, how to use digital technology and bring in that pedagogical approach into classroom process and thereby enriching the teaching learning process with varieties of online resources and making collaboration with the different agencies and persons on that particular areas. So it is in that way they are saying that your curriculum will also encourage to these gifted and talented students, though they come under the ambit of children with special needs. So if you embrace all of them, only then we say we are providing inclusive education. So all sectors, all categories of people are accommodated and ensure that every category of learners have accessibilities to education, quality education, and everybody will get quality education with the requisite competencies. So that is what the policy is talking about, and that we need to enshrine through bringing reforms in our curricular approach and in our pedagogical approach and in our assessment approach. Only then, at the end of these activities, so as the policy says, by 2030, we must be able to achieve all of them, and then we must be able to revisit the policy and revisit the curricular framework. And if required, we can bring updated versions of that and bring in the new curriculum if required. So it is in that way they are